This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on third G20 Governors and Finance Ministers meeting. The participants are S.P. Sharma, Economic Analyst, and Anubha Rohatgi, Anchor.
One of the many events being organized under India's G20 presidency is the third G20 Governors and Finance Ministers meeting, which is taking place on July 17th-18th. Union Finance and Corporate Affairs Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikanta Das are jointly chairing this meeting. And to know about the issues that are going to be discussed or that are being discussed and the importance of this meeting, Mr. Sharma, the third G20 Governors and Finance Ministers meeting, which is being held under India's chairmanship and is now underway at Gandhinagar, Gujarat. So what is the focus of this meeting?
The focus of the meeting is to discuss about the global economy and global health, because this is very, very important to discuss such issues, as these are the major growth drivers of the whole global ecosystem. The meeting of the G20 finance tracks, that is very important that our Honorable Governor and Honorable Finance Minister are participating in the meeting to discuss such crucial issues which are very, very important to move forward and to address the issues raised by so many recent developments like the Russia-Ukraine war, and before that the inflation trajectory. Session on international financial architecture is there, and they will discuss the international taxation and financial sector issues and financial inclusion, taxation, transparency in the taxation, then the strengthening of the multilateral development banks, then progress in the debt and treatment for the countries under common framework, then framework for the regulation and supervision of the crypto assets. So all these issues are very, very important to move forward, and these are the crucial factors for the global prosperity.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today said that a coordinated international effort is needed to navigate this challenging period. In this present context of prevailing economic situation worldwide, where many major economies are tackling serious economic challenges such as high inflation, food and energy insecurity, and threats of climate change, what role can the G20 economies play in tackling these issues and finding the solutions?
These are the global challenges, like the inflation situation. That is not an issue of individual countries. When the inflation comes, that is separated in the so many countries. Like we saw inflation there separating from US to emerging and developing economies and impacting the growth trajectory of many economies. Then the climate change and the food security, all these issues are the international issues, and these issues require the global synchronized move, which is for the addressal of such issues with the calibrated steps by each and every country. Like the inflation trajectory was going again and again in the higher and higher mode. So the central bank decided to move forward with the increase in the policy rates. Then they decided to move forward to enhance the policy rates, and that was a synchronized move by the central banks, and many countries were able to control the inflation trajectory. Like India was facing high inflation in the WPI segment and CPI segment during the last July-August months. So now the inflation is very much under control, and we have reduced the WPI inflation from more than 15% to less than in the minus trajectory of 4% in the recent months. And similarly, CPI inflation is also contained from its peak of 7.8% in the last April 2022 to the level of somewhere between 4 to 5% during the recent months. All these issues are global issues, because no country in isolation can control such tedious issues with their particular instruments. These issues are addressed with the synchronized move of the policymakers and the administration.
India's Finance Minister also said that a priority for the G20 and host India is strengthening global development banks and reaching a consensus on the intractable issues associated with rising indebtedness of low and middle income countries. So do you believe that the time has come for reforms in global development banks and lending institutions such as the IMF?
These global development banks, the objective of these banks is to provide the support to the developing countries, and these are from the member nations of the developed and developing economies, so that there is a mix of the support provided by the multilateral development banks to provide loans and grants to the member nations to fund the projects that support social and economic development in particular countries, such as the building of new roads, providing the clean water to the communities, and addressing the climate change issues and financial gaps, and supporting the enterprises, then commercial banking businesses. So this is a great move that multilateral development banks are coming forward to address such kind of issues which are related to the socio-economic development of many countries. So I think time is very crucial at this juncture when the global growth is decelerating and inflation trajectory is still impacting many of the countries, and some countries are facing the unemployment scenario also. The role of multilateral development banks will become more and more important to come forward and to address and support such kind of issues in the global economic arena.
So for our listeners, can you elaborate a little more on what these multilateral institutions or multilateral banks are, and what is their role in international economic transactions and international financial transactions and trade?
The major objective is to promote the socio-economic development of the particular countries which are facing such kind of issues, because these are the joint banks of the developed and developing countries which can address and understand the needs of the developing countries and know-how from the developed countries. Because socio-economic development is very important at this juncture. Some countries are facing the funding problems and they are not able to promote their socio-economic development at the state-of-the-art level. So at this juncture, these banks will support and provide the know-how to move forward and to enhance the funding for the such kind of developmental issues. As global economy is becoming more and more robust and dynamic, so these banks will be able to provide a great support according to the international development situation, because they will understand more as compared with our traditional bank funding organizations. They will provide state-of-the-art adequate solutions to the development needs of the developing countries.
Financial architecture and financial inclusion that you mentioned earlier are also issues that are being discussed in this particular meeting. In this context, India with its G20 presidency, how can it ensure that the concerns and challenges being faced by low-income nations are heard and addressed?
That is very important because India is now a growth leader in the G20 countries. India is the fastest moving economy in all the G20 countries. And our participation in the G20 countries in the export trajectory is more than 50%. That our total exports are more than 50% towards the G20 countries. And we are able to control inflation also. So India is a macroeconomic leader among the G20 countries, whether in the controlling the inflation trajectory, promoting the growth and addressing the other macroeconomic issues like the debt GDP ratio and other issues related to the fiscal deficit. So India can provide a great know-how about the macroeconomic fundamentals, how to move forward and how the developing countries can come forward to address their particular issues related to such kind of like the inflation and the fiscal deficit and the promotion of growth and enhancing the exports and creating the employment for the masses. So India's role becomes important as India is a growth leader as well as the presidency of the G20 countries is with India. So I believe overall scenario of the G20 countries will be benefited with the experiences of India, as country is now the fastest moving economy among the leading economies, and we are able to control the inflation trajectory sooner than later, and we are moving ahead as there are projections by the IMF that India's growth trajectory will be the fastest among the leading economies. So overall macroeconomic picture is very much favorable for India's thought process is very much recognized by the global community.
As you earlier mentioned, one of the focus areas will also be international taxation. What are the major challenges in this area which need to be addressed?
Yes, international taxation is very important. Sometimes the double taxation is there. Countries are not able to find out the solutions for the investments in each other territories. So they address the issues by signing the double taxation treaties to address how to make them more and more transparent. Like India is moving ahead with more and more transparency in the taxation system, like we implemented the GST in 2017. Now we are completing the 6 years of the GST. And we are transparent in our direct taxes also, and there are reforms in the direct taxation system. So taxation transparency is very, very important for the synchronized move of the countries, like the bilateral relations, trade relations, investment relations between the developed and developing countries are the backbone. Taxation system is the backbone of such relations to move forward and to enhance the bilateral trade and investment flows. So this is very important that some issues of the taxation, if any, are discussed and addressed so that transparency in the taxation becomes more and more prominent.
Cryptocurrency regulations and supervision is also going to be under discussion in this particular meeting. How important is it to focus on an issue such as this, given India's stand on cryptocurrency?
Yes, cryptocurrency is very crucial issue because India is very transparent in cryptocurrency scenario. I would like to mention that we are very much clear that cryptocurrencies are only the mode of speculation and there is a lot of uncertainty and volatility in the cryptocurrency markets. And our Reserve Bank and our government is very much clear that they are not providing any legal support to the cryptocurrencies trading in the country. We are very much clear and moving ahead, there should not be any compromise for the crypto trading in the country as this is very, very volatile and affecting the sentiments of the small investors. Sometimes they are in huge losses and the observations are during the last 2-3 years that there is extreme volatility in the crypto trading and there are risks as counterparties are not identified in the trading system and some kind of illegal transactions can also happen which can be a threat of the national security. We are very much clear and going ahead, I think India's stand on the cryptocurrencies is very, very appreciable. And now the RBI already has come with the digital rupee, which is very, very important. And we are finding the alternatives which are very, very transparent for the interest of the society.
And you also feel that there is a need to have some kind of an international, rules and regulations concerning cryptocurrency because after all, it's not just that it's only India, people who trade in this are only confined to the Indian markets. It's a world, it's like any other stock market. So people all over the world, including India, trading in this. So there is a need to regulate this particular area as well, so far as laws are concerned, so far as rules are concerned.
I agree that if we can't escape from the trading of the cryptocurrency, then there must be some international treaty and international rules to regulate the cryptocurrencies with a transparent manner. Otherwise, this trading will create a major threat and risk to the investors and no country can be insulated from such kind of risk and anybody trading in the cryptocurrencies can face a huge kind of uncertainty and risk and loss of wealth.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is also participating in this meeting and she today met our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on the sidelines of the meeting. Now, Ms. Yellen has said that the world is looking to the G20 to make progress on key challenges like climate change and pandemics as part of the work to strengthen the global economy and to support developing countries. What is your opinion on this?
As now everybody is looking at India as India is a growth leader in many aspects and addressing the macroeconomic challenges very adequately with the calibrated steps. That is a great that we address the inflation trajectory and maintain the growth scenario also. That has happened very unique in the global ecosystem that controlling inflation and maintaining the growth is a great precious thing happened in India and no country was able to reduce the inflation while maintaining the growth rate. Growth rates are decelerated in so many countries and many countries are facing the lower than the pre-pandemic growth rates and countries are still not able to recover from the coronavirus impact. So India has very much addressed all these issues within a shorter span. From the shock, we recovered very swiftly. And now we are maintaining the growth rate. Some countries recovered from the coronavirus, then again they were in the negative trajectory of the economic growth. But India has consistently maintained its resilience at more than 7% growth rate during the post-pandemic years also. And projections are that we will grow more than 6% in the next 5 years as projected by IMF. So now the countries are looking at India and that is true that Madam Yellen also focused on India's scenario.
India's growth story, of course, is is being discussed everywhere. But Ms. Yellen has also talked about G20. So as a bloc, what is the importance of G20 as an economic bloc to tackle the global challenges that the world is facing today?
The economic activity of the G20 countries is more than 75% of the whole economic activity of the world, whether in the terms of growth participation, that is more than 80%, and the participation in the trade, that is also more than 75%. So overall, I believe the more than 75% contribution in the world economic activity becomes crucial and important for the G20 countries as they are providing a great trajectory in the world ecosystem. And India's relations with the G20 countries are also very, very significant as more than 50-60% of the economic activity is concentrated about the G20 countries. Great thing is that we are the growth leader leader and we are the fastest moving economy in the G20 countries, and our export growth or addressing the inflation issue or the economic growth, all these fundamentals or these macroeconomic indicators are very, very prominent and lucrative among the G20 countries. Expectations are high, and G20 is a great major bloc which is driving the global economic activity and growth trajectory of the world ecosystem.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on third G20 Governors and Finance Ministers meeting. The participants were S.P. Sharma, Economic Analyst, and Anubha Rohtgi, Anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani.